Welcome everyone to Global Focus, your go-to podcast for sharp geopolitical insights and deep dive analysis of global affairs. I am Hari Prakash Sinha, and today we discuss a crucial topic that could reshape the world politics. Russia-Iran strategic partnership, geopolitical and economic implications. To explain it all, we have a distinguished guest, Dr. Adityanjee, President of the Council for Strategic Affairs, a leading expert in international relations and strategic policy making. His insights will help us decode the potential disruptions in global trade, security alliances, and economic shifts if Donald Trump and economic shifts. Dr. Adityanjee, welcome to Global Focus. It's an honor to have you with us.
Thank you, Mr. Sinha. I'm always pleased to come back to your platform, Global Focus. It's a good time and we have good discussions. So let's start.
Yes, sir. So jumping on my first question, how does Russia-Iran alliance impact India's energy security and trade interests?
If I have to give a very pithy, very short answer, I would say in negligible manner.
Oh,
But let me go into the background.
yeah.
Russia and Iran signed in January of 2025 a strategic partnership agreement.
I see.
It's almost a 39 points agreement, which I browsed through. This basically takes precedence over all the other agreements Russia and Iran have signed.
See.
Looking at this agreement, strategic partnership agreement, things that strike you is that A, it is not a military alliance.
Okay.
It is not a treaty. It is just aspirational, a bunch of clauses that we shall strive to do this, we shall strive to do that, we shall increase our trade, we shall, promote multilateralism, we will promote, human rights, and we will prevent hegemony, those kind of things. The only thing it says categorically is that in case one country is attacked, the other country will not support that attacking country. That's it. And go towards resolution of the problems under UN framework. So in a sense, it is just an aspirational, rehash of whatever relationship was between Russia and Iran, and it was signed, I think, in Moscow. And the agreement was released in 3 languages, English, Persian, and Russian.
Okay.
So why it became important? Remember when Russian Federation started CSTO, which is a security alliance, I think around 2012, they invited Iran to be a member of that. And Iran did not act on that. Iran was very wary because then Iran would be obligated to come to the Russian defense in case Russia was attacked by any other country or any other member country of the CSTO. So Iran wanted to play safe. In February 2022, when Ukraine war started, Russia needed drones. And Iran had the drones, so Iran started supplying drones to Russia.
Yeah.
And then eventually, what happened that Russia, with Iran's help, established a drone factory in Russian territory.
Oh.
So by the end of last year, There was no need for Iran to quote unquote export drones to Russia because Russia was making drones in large numbers. So this agreement is kind of acknowledgement of that relationship. Both countries are hydrocarbon gas energy surplus countries. Both countries are under US sanctions. Both countries' economies are contracting. Both countries are trying to bypass dollar as the international currency and do bilateral trade, either in local currencies or in yuan or whatever, or having some kind of barter arrangement.
Yes.
Their economies are of such scale that they do not affect global trade in a major manner. They were using Asian Clearing Union to do their bilateral trade, and there was some difficulty. It's, I think, a slightly different mechanism from SWIFT. Now, if you look at the GDP of both countries, the GDP of Russian Federation is barely now $2 trillion, barely. The estimate for 2025 for Iranian economy or Iranian GDP would be around $475 billion. So we are talking about small GDPs, small economies. Whatever bilateral trade agreement they do amongst themselves is not going to affect India. In fact, at one point in time, India-Iran trade annually used to be around $17 billion.
Okay.
With the US sanctions, this came down to $1.9 billion. India exports to Iran $1.19 billion and imports around $600-700 million. There was a time Iran used to be India's largest hydrocarbon supplier or second largest hydrocarbon supplier. And under US sanctions, Indian government succumbed and started to diversify the sources of hydrocarbons or energy security. So Iran does not figure any way. There are other issues, although both Iran and India are civilizational states, there have been problems bilaterally. So the trade has not picked up to the extent it should have. One of the reasons is definitely US sanctions. But mind you, India withstood US sanctions, unilateral sanctions on Russia, and continued to import hydrocarbons from Russia
Yeah.
because Russia was giving a very good deal to India.
Yes.
China continued to buy, was the top buyer of hydrocarbons from Russia, but also top buyer of hydrocarbons from Iran because the Chinese government needed energy and they did not succumb to US pressure, which Indian government did. But something which Iranian government did not do was not to offer discounted prices or easy terms of payment to India. So Iran cannot have its cake and eat it too. And historically, they have been a baggage with the Islamic Revolution, Iran. Iran has taken hot, blow cold attitude towards India.
Yeah.
I remember in 2017 when Prime Minister Modi went to Israel, Ayatollah Khamenei, made a statement about, persecution of Muslims in Kashmir and this and that and India, that kind of thing. So when push comes to shove, Iran sometimes does not help India in both or in multiplicity of Indo-Pak wars. Iran actually supported Pakistan.
Yes.
And in terms of energy security, in early 90s and late 90s, there was talk of this IPI gas pipeline. I don't know whether you remember or not. IPI stood for Iran, Pakistan, and India. The plan was to have a 42-inch diameter gas pipeline from southwest Iran, traversing Iranian territory, then Pakistani territory, and then coming to India up to New Delhi. Now, the problem with this was that Iran did not want to offer better terms for gas export to India. Pakistan wanted transit fee and free gas at India's cost. And India was asked to, defray some of the cost of construction of the pipeline.
Mm.
India had an alternate route of I-2 pipeline. I-2 means Iran to India using the sea route, undersea route, bypassing Pakistan, because Pakistan is always a security threat to India.
Yes, yes.
And Iran did not want to do that.
Mm.
So, although Iran constructed its part of the pipeline, India withdrew from the project in 2008, and Pakistan till today has not been able to construct its portion of the gas pipeline because it goes through Balochistan.
Mm.
And there is a lot of unrest in Balochistan. So the project is shelved. All the countries are losers in that, specifically Iran. If in early 90s, Iran had agreed to undersea passage of I-2 pipeline, India-Iran pipeline, the way it would have come that, from southwest Iran, it would have come undersea in the Persian Gulf and then going to Arabian Sea to some port in Gujarat, and from Gujarat a pipeline to Delhi, New Delhi. And once the pipeline is operational, it is very difficult to, affect its operation by economic sanctions, unilateral economic sanctions. So Iran would have been less affected by US sanctions if that pipeline was operational, but Iran was short-sighted. All I'm trying to tell you that by this time, India's sources of energy have diversified. We can get from Oman, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Iraq. We can also get from Russia. We can get hydrocarbons from both Venezuela and Guyana. And there was a time we were getting hydrocarbon or energy exports from US. And they are going to like to increase. So Iran does not figure much at this point in time. So in terms of energy security of India, yes, Indian economy is growing at 6.5 to 7% every year. So there's demand for energy. 85% of India's energy needs are imported. Having one more good source would be a good thing. But at this point in time, considering the attitude of Islamic Republic of Iran towards India and lack of willingness to, work out any concessional arrangements, trying to make money at India's cost has not served Iran. And Iran's religious fundamentalism has affected India's response to Iranian foreign policy, Iranian foreign policy interests. Iran has taken hard line viewpoint about India's relationship with Israel, but Iran has continued to support Pakistan in certain situations.
Yes. So
So what
okay. So if not India, will anyway this will affect the global geopolitics?
How would affect global geopolitics, or let's say geoeconomics,
Mm.
when these two countries do not control a big slice of international trade? If it was, let's say, China and Iran, uh, still you would say that there may be some issues there. But these are very small economies. Both are contracting economies. Both are commodity-based economies. And yes, they have their own issues, but bilateral trade agreement between the two of them or promoting trade, because bilateral trade between the two of them is like $4 billion between Russia and Iran. $4 billion. So how does it affect, international global trade? These are regional issues. The strategic partnership agreement between Russia and Iran is of symbolic significance rather than actual significance. I'll bring another issue in this discussion. Both Iran and Russia are now part of a seeming quad of nations called CERN or CRINC, whichever way you want to call it. CERN stands for China, Iran, Russia, and North Korea. And similarly, CRINC stands for China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea. So there is an informal grouping of these four authoritarian countries that are converging together on various issues. So yes, if you see, Russia has now strategic partnership agreement in January of 2025 with Iran, but Russia also signed a bilateral strategic and mutual defense treaty with North Korea last year. Russia and China are all-weather partners. They keep on proclaiming that. So in this grouping, CERN, it is the Russia that is initiating the strategic relationship with the other three countries. China has its own relationship with North Korea, and China was the sort of state that was supporting the North Korean dictatorial regime, but Russia has pipped China in that process. And China is not very happy about it. The point I'm trying to make is that, yes, there may be some significance of these four countries coming together, but it is not an earth-shattering event.
So, can India benefit from the Russia, Iran, and China economic corridor, or will it face challenges?
So there is no direct Russia, Iran, China corridor. There are multiple such corridors. And Iran is linked or can be linked to China through BRI project of CPEC. Okay. There is a middle corridor which is still in infancy because the tonnage is only 2.5 million tons per year and the infrastructure is rudimentary. Similarly, there is a northern corridor which is Russian supported that has much more movement, although with the unilateral sanctions, Western countries are not using that corridor. It's around 100 million tons per year, the tonnage. So, geographically, just geographical linkage of a road connectivity between China, Russia, and Iran, it will require a lot of, investment. Who is going to do that investment? China wants to do BRI because that benefits China. So China will do what benefits China. And in that process, yes, these two countries may be linked. There's already this international north-south transport corridor. So if that gets linked in some way to CPEC, it will help these countries. Any kind of connectivity is helpful. This is an era of trade and international commerce, not of war. So anything that fosters connectivity, trade routes is good. But again, this is something that does not affect India adversely in any way. If there is a positive trade, maybe India can become party to it in some way or the other.
Coming to my last question, what does Russia-Iran defense cooperation mean for India's military and regional security?
So both these countries, again, are not adversaries of India.
So,
They're not hostile to India in any, concrete manner. We have good relations with Russia despite some hiccups. Yeah, by and large, okay relationship with Iran. There have been issues. Iran sends Iranian students to India. There are 8,000 students any point in time from Iran that are studying in Indian universities, mainly in Bengaluru and Pune. Iran has this tendency to interfere in India's internal affairs because Iran is a Shia country and India has a very large Shia population. But overall, Russia-Iran defense cooperation is not targeted against India.
yeah,
It is to build their own security regionally. Iran needs help in case Israel attacks Iran. Now, India is not going to come to the rescue of Iran, but Russian Federation may give some help and may help them in United Nations Security Council because it's still a veto holding member. As I said that in Ukraine war, Iran supplied drones and some surface-to-air missiles initially when Russia was running short of ammunitions and hardware. Iran came to Russia's help, and by signing this, it's as a symbolic significant strategic cooperation agreement. Both the countries do not want to be obligated in any tight sense about mutual defense. Although there is aspirational statement that they will not support the third country attacking because Iran is always afraid that either Israel or United States will attack Iran. Will Russia enter into direct confrontation with United States if United States were to attack Iran? Answer is no, because these major nuclear powers don't want to have a direct confrontation, direct war with each other. They just want a proxy war. So most likely it might be, if there is a regional war, it will be Iran-Israel war, and it will affect India indirectly. Because if the, sea lanes of communication and trade routes are, you know, obstructed because of a regional war in West Asia, yes, it will affect us, but not directly, but indirectly. So India does not have anything to fear because of bilateral strategic partnership agreement that was signed between Russia and Iran. Uh, that is for both the countries. They have their regional issues. Iran also vies for leadership in the Islamic world. So it gets competition either from Saudi Arabia or from Turkey. Uh, so they are battling it out. So India does not figure into that picture. So I don't think for India's military and regional security, there is anything to worry about. The worry would be that international trade routes will be affected. The prices of oil will jump up if there is a conflict in West Asia. And if the prices of oil jump up and there's a shortage of hydrocarbons, it affects everyone, including India, which is a growing economy, growing very fast. We need a stable international environment so that India can grow at 6.5 and 7% uh, annually rate. India is currently fifth in nominal terms, in dollar terms, in the terms of GDP, fifth largest economy. The projections are that by 2027, 2028, India might become third. So that process will be definitely affected if there's a conflict, if there's a war, larger war in the West Asia region. India certainly would not encourage any war in the West Asia region, because when international trade, international hydrocarbon supplies, prices of hydrocarbons are affected, it does not hold good for Indian economy, because 85% of the energy needs are fulfilled by imports. So definitely there will be some impact on the economy, but not India's direct military security, because both these countries are not quote unquote enemy countries. I mean, if you're talking about strategic adversaries, there are only two around India, one on the western border, one on the northern border. And these two countries do not fall into that league. And if they are working together, that's fine with us.
So that was all the question I had for you. So that was an eye-opening discussions. As we have seen, a second Trump presidency can shake up the Europe, disrupt global stability, and create new challenges and opportunities for India. The big question is, how should India navigate this evolving landscape? A huge thank you to Dr. Adityanjee for sharing his valuable insights, and to our viewers. Stay tuned for more episodes on Global Focus, where we analyze the world through an Indian lens. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you next time. So
Thank
thank
you,
you.
Mr. Sinha, for inviting me on your platform. So, as I said, anything that affects the oil prices, the supply of hydrocarbons of energy will affect India's growth. Besides a possible war in the West Asia region, there's a heating up conflict between Venezuela and Guyana that may affect the world hydrocarbon and energy supplies, and that may again indirectly in a minor way affect India's economic growth. But thank you very much indeed, and it has been a pleasure to be on your platform.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.